So, like you mentioned, we cannot say for sure the intentions of the filling station owners. Why are they hoarding it, or they don't have the supply of the products? You already read on the news that we imported some adulterated fuel into the country, or what we call off-spec petrol in the country. So these are the specific petrol that are not compatible for our car engines, for the engines in our cars in Nigeria. And so the NNPC has to withhold the imported petrol, and hence the scarcity in the country. So because the damages that this adulterated fuel is going to create is really a big catastrophe if they allow it. So it's better to have this kind of scarcity than to release that kind of damaging fuel circulating in the country. Because initially when they imported it, they released it into the market. They started discharging it from the depot, and then people started buying, and then they started noticing some of these damages in their engines and difficulty in kickstarting their cars. And that's when they realized they imported the wrong fuel. It's not called bad fuel per se. Is not the right product for this country, for the kind of cars we use. So that they have to withdraw it back and stop supplying it. And that has created the supply gap. And that's why we are facing the scarcity. So, refineries work based on specific requirements of the market. So if this refinery is designed to produce certain level of specific refined petroleum. But now, due to the advance of technology, refineries can now produce any different kind of specification of petrol. So what we have now is refineries producing variety of petrol, and the marketers can now blend it based on with any kind of chemical substance they want to meet any kind of market specification. So refineries can now produce like what you call a generic refined petroleum, and then the marketers will now look at the market and say, with this market, what kind of product specification do you need? And then they blend this refined petroleum to meet that market demand, market destination specification. So what we have is we have this kind of chemical substance that is being blended into any refined petroleum. We have the ethanol and the methanol. Right. So market destination, they have their requirements. In Europe, they have 2 to 3% requirement of methanol. And in Nigeria, 5%, we are okay with that. Like in Brazil, 20% of methanol is fine. So this is not a bad fuel. It's not the right, we call it off-spec fuel. Is out of our range. So that is a standard that we require for any petrol to be used within Nigeria. So because we didn't do the retrofitting of our car engines like the Brazilians have done with their big trucks, Brazilians would have been fine with this, what you call the bad fuel. So this likely to be the fuel that is supposed to be sent to Brazil, eventually find its way to Nigeria. And so the purpose of this blending of this chemical substance is to improve the efficiency and reduce the CO2 emissions. So rather reducing the energy intensity so that with less fuel you can have the same transport purpose. This has been on use since 1970s. And there were different chemical substances before, but they were very hazardous, so they were banned. So now what is being used is largely methanol. So what we imported 4 vessels of refined petroleum from Belgium, and each vessel has 50 million liters, and all of them they have 20% methanol, which cannot be used on our car engines. We have to give first credit to the NNPC for a smooth supply so far. I think for a couple of years we have had a stable supply of the petrol, but this is another weakness from the NNPC. And if there's one lesson we should learn, is that we need to start checking for this kind of chemical substance when we are importing it. And then we have to also punish people who didn't do well here, and who are not doing their jobs, either the importer or the marketer or the refiner, whoever is involved. Now the NNPC, they're also making efforts to see that this is not a waste totally. They want to import 2.6 billion liters. To blend it with this one so that we can we reduce the methanol content to something less than 5%.
NNPC, as of yesterday, said all NNPC gas stations should operate 24/7 to help people who have been on queues to actually get the product. That's one. Secondly is the fact that they are trying to import a quantity to breach the scarcity gap, and at the same time expecting that another very huge quantity will come in at the end of the month. Do you think NNPC have the capacity nationwide to actually meet the current scarcity difficulty that the wanting of this product has caused?
Yeah, it's an emergency situation. Even if they don't have the capacity, they will be empowered, because this is what can make this country stand still.
Meaning more
money,
more petroleum pump attendants.
Security when they said their staff should work 24/7, they're talking about the people who are upstream level, or even in the downstream, the early stage chain of the downstream, people who are at the depot site. They should be discharging and uploading these products on the trucks so that they can keep supplying. The tanker drivers should be working, and everyone should get to work, back to work 24/7 to make sure that filling stations are supplied. But still this filling station, they do arbitrage. What they do is to hold it and sell it to black marketers.
So who is controlling that?
But
they are
NNPC,
they are still under the regulation and the supervision of the NNPC.
Yeah. But they have to track them. For example, when you buy from the depot, and then you have to be tracked to make sure that you are selling the fuel. So what they're doing is creating unnecessary scarcity, so that they can sell it at higher price. We have had stories from other states where pump price is sold far above the regulated price, which is very exorbitant, and it's not good for the economy and for the people. So I think if there is any lesson we learn from this saga, from this situation, is that we are really, really vulnerable. Can you imagine just this kind of glitch, this small interruption? Look at how this country is standing still, and nothing is moving. The whole economy is shut down because of four vessels.
Yeah.
Because we import from outside. Had it been we refine it here, we can produce our own specifications.
Exactly.
We can say, okay, we have this local refinery, that what we have. So you have to produce what we want. But when you are just importing from anywhere, you're likely to get anything. You don't have control over that.
Exactly.
Especially the fact that we have one of the sweetest and the lightest fuel or crude oil in the world. But our crude oil is being bought outside, and then we receive
products that are being brought back in.
Even though the NNPC, they're doing what they call direct sell, direct purchase, DSP, right? So even these four vessels, 200 million liters that are being brought adulterated, is through the marketers who are responsible for lifting the Nigerian oil and doing the direct sale and direct purchase. So it's through this process. So we are not even sure what you are collecting back is refined from your own nice petrol.
Nice petrol.
Because
I mean, nice crude.
Nice crude, yeah. Nice crude, yes. Because refineries will always want to chase Nigerian crude oil because it's very easy. You can get a lot of gasoline from it. It isn't going to create corrosion, and it's going to maintain the refinery for much longer when you are refining lighter crude oils. But when you are refining heavy crude oil, your refinery is going to get damaged, and you need to do a lot of maintenance, and that's very costly. So refineries will always prefer the light one because they can get more output, and it's more suitable for their system.
Okay, now, Doc, I haven't painted a very ugly situation. We have the best quality of crude.
Yeah.
We still get it out of the country, get it refined, and bring in the refined product.
Yeah.
How come Nigeria just never solved this problem once and for all? Our refineries have not been working for years. Maybe the few ones that government said is working, it's not even producing close to what we consume. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Nigeria as a country, we consume between 56 to 60 million liters in a day, every day.
But that's not even reported. It says 70 million.
About 70 million?
Yeah. So,
wow.
But, even these 70 million liters, I think is questionable. And we really...
Is it lower or much more?
Much higher.
Much higher?
Yeah, but even some people argue because there's no auditing. There's no way we can really know how much we consume. And when we don't have a public transport system where everyone has to own their own cars, that means more consumption. We might travel to the same destination, 10 of us, every single day, and we have to consume the same quantity of fuel, while we can have a public transport that will consume
that will take everybody
in it. Yes. So that drastically will reduce by, if it is 10 people, that's we're just looking at their consumption pattern, that's going to reduce the consumption by 90%. Right? If you have public transport system, so you're likely to have from 70 million to somewhere about 20 million or 30 million liters, which means one vessel can be sufficient for you for 2 days or 3 days.
Now,
our failure to create the refinery or to have a working refineries here is the main problem, and nobody is going to come into power and find it easy or to propel this economy without fixing refineries and having the working refineries that will refine what we need locally.
Okay, now in wrapping this up, I know a lot of government has come and gone. Gowan government in 1976. We can take it to Shagari in 1978. We can bring it to Obasanjo in 1979.
Okay.
We can bring it all the way even to the military era. Attempts to re-engineer or rejig the Nigerian refineries, but governments subsequently have failed in being able to do that. Is there something wrong that Nigerians need to know? How come we couldn't just get our refineries to work?
Well, there are two factors there. One, from the management, because why other refineries are working while this one is not working? Because it's a government thing, it's a public utility, it's a public facility. So people don't value, and they become reluctant, they don't do their job if it is a government property. So I think government is not good in managing some of these kind of things. So I think holding back into the hands of government for all this long, they should have been privatized much longer than now.
Awesome.
So I think it comes down to the management. That's number one. Number two, these refineries we have are outdated, more than 40 years constructed. So there are new modern technology, refineries, improved technologies in refinery that we can really embed into this one. Some people argue, or we can even have a new systems that will can perform much better than this one. These are dilapidated, are old refineries. Even if you maintain them or you fix them, you have to do that again. Imagine you having an old car, you go to the mechanic today, you fix it, so you have to take it to mechanic again. So when you buy a new car, so you don't have to have the frequency you going to the mechanic will reduce. So I think we need a fresh new refinery, and I think the Dangote refinery is a hope for this administration, for this government, or for Nigerians at all, because this will mean that we refine what we want within Nigeria, and then we produce what we want specifically, so that this kind of adulterated or off-spec fuel will not be imported because it's regulated. We can see, and the refiner already knows that this is what Nigeria needs. This is the Nigerian market, and even though having a local refinery may not change the narratives when it comes to the petrol price at the filling station generally, because even Dangote refinery that is coming soon, likely to come soon, will have to receive crude oil at international price, which is in dollar. So he has to pay Nigerian government in dollars, and then he has to follow through the same refining system like other refineries, and he's going for profits. So if he has a higher price in Niger or in Chad, Chad is giving them 500 naira per liter, and Nigeria is saying, okay, we pay you 200.
160.
So where else will he go? You know that he's going there,
and he's
right?
a businessman.
Yeah, he's a businessman. So he is going to look at the market. Even though he's going to what you call the domestic supply obligation, he will be obligated to supply certain liters locally for him being operating here. But he still has to make profits, even if he's selling here. So he will just give them the capex and the OPEX. Okay, so this is what I spend, average cost. And if it's 250, if it's 300, he cannot sell it less than 300 because he's a businessman. And now, as we are talking, crude oil is at its highest since in the last how many years? 10 years ago, $95 per barrel, almost $100 per barrel, and that means refineries, they will be buying crude oil at expensive price. And imagine that you have a bakery and the flour is very expensive. The price of your bread
obviously
will be more expensive. So because the crude oil is expensive, the refined petroleum is going to be very, very expensive. At the moment, the subsidy charges on the government is going to keep increasing. As we are receiving more revenue from the sale of crude oil, we're also spending more for the subsidy.
For the subsidy.
So we are receiving, but we are losing.
And
that's why the government didn't have power to do all these capital projects, infrastructure development, but because they're spending all their income on subsidizing consumption. So this is a trap that we found ourselves for long, because our leaders in the past didn't think ahead. They didn't think this kind of situation is going to come on board. But there's some temporary measures. One, because our population is ever growing, continuously growing. So let's target some energy consuming states like Abuja and Lagos, and create public transport system, railways, trains,
and to reduce pressure on the use.
So people don't have to
on the consumption.
Yeah, I can reach here using public transport system conveniently. I don't have to fuel my car to drive all the way. So I can sell my car at the cost of maintenance. I can do business with that. So if you look at advanced countries, advanced world, they have convenient public transport system where even the leaders use. So
they're not feeling what we're feeling.
So how can we, exactly. Yeah.
I wish, Doctor.
So even in the UK, when they're saying that selling their petrol in a filling station, 800 naira per litre, not everyone bothered about that, because not everyone is owning a car, because you buy your bus ticket.
So it really is not my business.
Yeah,
it is not
so
my
the
business.
rich people will still get to the bus, and the poor people. So anywhere you want to go, no matter how long you want to navigate, there are public transport network, so that we can reduce the consumption, and that will reduce the burden. But the subsidy removal cannot be now.
All right. Thank you so very much, Dr. Ahmed, for having you on the Osasu show.